Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramon, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. Doing business and life with a purpose, serving others, and yes, achieving success. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. We created this show for you because we want everyone to be motivated, inspired, and educated to make an impact in your world. Not the world, but in your world. My guest is going to blow you guys' heads off, not literally, but with the knowledge and information he's going to give you and the energy. But while you're listening, I want you to think about today, who will you serve today and how? And what impact will you create today? And if you want to email me, send me an email how you serve somebody today. Get that out to the universe so it changes your universe. I want to thank my sponsor, pitchdb.com. Be a guest on over 3 million podcasts. Speak at over 11,000 conferences and much, much more. Build your thought leader platform to be an incredible opportunity to show who you are. Okay, I blew this guy up already. He makes an impact. He's made a huge impact in the coaching industry. There's a lot of business coaches out there, but he's got, as I call, the secret sauce to really help people grow and scale. But you know what's the best part? He's got a servant's heart while he's doing this. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. I'm really excited to be here. And I love your energy, by the way. So hopefully I can match it.
Oh, they're talking to you before the show. I know we're going to match it. That won't be a problem. And as I told you before the show in our pre-talk, people always ask, take on all clients. And I need money, so I'm going to take on these 5 clients. How do you determine which client to work with?
That's a great question. I think if I'm being, if I'm just being really honest, in the beginning of our journey of building this coaching business that I started, you kind of take on anybody who will come your way, because part of that is developing what I call the proof in the pudding, right? I mean, obviously you're pitching the quality or the type of coaching that you're offering to a client. You're communicating the, pardon me, there we go, the deliverables. You're communicating the goals. What does this transformation look like? In the beginning, you just take anybody who comes your way, because you've got to prove that what coaching you're offering actually works. I'm a big believer in this. Everybody wants to jump in and build a business that is immediately successful and makes a lot of money and has a great reputation. But I think we've lost sight sometimes of the fact that we need to pay our dues, and for a good reason. Because part of that early season for us of working with anybody who would come our way was giving us a chance to test our models of coaching, to test our processes, our toolkit, and to refine it over and over and over again to increasingly or to continually increase the effectiveness of our coaching. And then over time, as we, the proof was in the pudding and we felt more confident in our process methodology toolkit, it allowed us to begin to be a little bit more picky about who we were working with. We were able to narrow in on, what they would call your ideal client. But I would tell people, don't be afraid in the beginning of starting a business to work with anybody who comes your way who will give you a chance. As a matter of fact, I offered a lot of coaching for free in those early days, just so that we would have testimonials, just so that I could actually determine, is what we're doing actually effective? My wife says this the best. She says, babe, the problem is not that people experience imposter syndrome. It's that not enough people have imposter syndrome. In other words, we oftentimes want to be further than we are. We want to be more effective than we are today. And so we're afraid, I think, to recognize, hey, I'm just starting something. I'm going to have to grow and develop my ability to, deliver on whatever it is as a coach or a business. And that's okay. But as we work with more clients, guess what? That increases our ability that enables us to take our game to new levels, which then allows us the liberty of being more selective about our clients.
I love that. And I love that you said free, because that's what a servant heart does. In any business, you need to give freebie. You need to work with people. Not saying give up your whole business, but I always tell coaches, give your whole IP.
Yep.
They're going to still need you. But that's where the universe changes and the servant heart comes in. And you got a large team, which congratulations. Not a lot of coaches have done that. What do you think your superpower is between you and your team when you go out and help people?
I think, the way that clients have said it to us, right, which is oftentimes the best way to determine, like, what is the actual strength that I bring to the table, is to ask your clients, hey, what's been the greatest impact? What's been the most helpful thing that I've done for you or your organization? And I would say that more than anything else, leaders reflect back to us that our superpower is that we are like business therapists. And I think too often what happens is we kind of think of therapy as something that we go and do, with a therapist behind closed doors in our personal life. And then in our other side of our life, we're doing business. And we're not therapists, and we don't cross the line into therapy. But I do think it's really important for leaders to do a measure of work on understanding who they are, how they operate, where they're an asset to their environment, where they're potentially a liability to their environment. Doing that hard work on self-discovery, or what we call self-awareness, does feel a little bit therapeutic, right? That we're taking some time to pay attention to ourselves. But what we remind leaders is, you can only give to others what you first cultivate within yourself. If you want to serve other people more effectively, if you want to be more impactful, then you've got to make sure you're doing the work internally so that you can become that kind of person that is more influential, more impactful. That's just part of the process. And so leaders love that we require that they do that personal work, because it also untangles, it gets them unstuck in areas that they didn't even know they were stuck in, that then releases a fresh season of growth, development, transformation, and productivity.
That's powerful. Couple tips there. One, ask your clients. Audience, no matter what business you're in, follow through with your clients. That's such a great tip. Hey, how are we doing? Now you're going to learn how you could do better, but that's a point people don't talk about. What are we doing good that we can communicate with others, either in your marketing, your coaches that go out and talk to other people, or people like me that now love what you're doing or share you around, and people I run into. The second point is the point of coaching, because there's so many coaches out there.
Yeah.
And you really have narrowed it down. What would you tell a coach now, one tip to go that made a difference in you guys growing?
That's a great question. I do have the privilege of working with lots of people who are either aspiring to develop a coaching business, or who have built a business, but kind of, are trying to find some new areas of growth and development. So say that question one more time so I can make sure I answer it well.
What's a tip you would give a coach that's exactly what you're talking about, that's inspiring? I just don't want to be a solo coach, but I want to build a team. For me personally, when I talk to coaches, that should be your aspiration if you want to scale. Only way you're going to scale is multiple people. So what one or two tips can you give for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say, first of all, so much of what we learn as coaches is we have developed what I call a level of unconscious competence. We know how to do things without knowing that we're doing those things. And if those things are effective, but we're not able to then articulate that to the people that we want to train as coaches, then we will have a massive gap. So for example, we've developed a whole coaching process, weekly modules. So if anybody comes and works with us or gets certified through our process, they are significantly resourced to take anybody through the process that we've developed. And yet, that's the process. Now, there are so many intangible qualities of what I might do during a coaching call, how I handle a particular person based on who they are, their personality type, their wiring, based on the circumstances. When do I push? When do I let off the gas pedal? There's so many nuanced ways of engaging your client that goes beyond and above whatever formal process you've created. And so for leaders to have to mine that out, what I call mining it from the unconscious realm back into the conscious realm. The way that I do that is I surround myself with coaches that are in training, and I tell them, you have to ask me lots of questions about why and how and what I did in any situation, because Me having to explain it to you is going to give you access to the unconscious competence I've developed, that now it's forcing me to speak it out loud and explain it, and it's putting it back into the conscious realm. And a lot of that we've recorded it, we put it into, different forms of content for our coaches. But I think for a lot of us, we forget that we've learned so much that we're not even sure how we learned it or why we're doing something that's effective. And so the process of being disciplined to say, how do I mine that out so that you guys can pick up on it more easily?
I love that quote. How I learned, I don't know how. And some people will go, oh, and they'll try to figure out how they learned it. We're like, hey, you just learned something. Like my dad used to say, never recreate the wheel.
That's
You
right.
got a system, Eric. Jump in if it feels it fits you, and work with Eric's team, because there's a system there. You said leader and leadership a number of times so far in our conversation, which I love. Servant heart, servant leadership. What operating system and why is it important for leadership?
Oh, gosh. Well, first of all, like you said earlier, there's so many different expressions of coaching out there, which I think is fantastic. The specific lane that we tend to run in and operate in is in the lane of specifically leadership development. How do we empower leaders to operate more effectively in whatever context? And then how do they effectively multiply that leadership into their teams, into their organization? So we're not as much business coach, business strategy, how do you scale? Even though we understand a lot of that stuff, we try to stay in the niche that we're most qualified for. So again, go back to that question, because I don't want to lose the question you were asking.
Why is leadership operating system so important?
Yes. We refer to this as our LOS, and it's an interesting phrase that I stumbled upon years ago as I was trying to make sense of a conundrum in my mind. And it was simply this, that as a younger leader, I was consuming through a variety of forms of content, everything I could on leadership. And the problem is I didn't know how to bridge the gap between these amazing things I was reading or hearing about and the everyday practice of how to integrate those things into my everyday life to move the needle on my leadership. And here was something that came to mind. It was during a season where I was reading a lot about Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and the innovative genius of what they did. And what people I think often forget, is we love these smartphone devices because we can go to an app store where there are millions of apps, and we can download whatever app is going to specifically target the problem we're trying to solve in any area of our life, which is fantastic. But what we forget oftentimes is the real genius of what they created or developed was the operating system that actually runs all of those apps. And so what I try to help people understand is, as human beings, from the earliest years of our life, we have been developing an operating system. We've been programmed through our upbringing in our households, through different schooling experience, sports teams, coaches, mentors, friends, context, culture, all these different ways that our brains have actually developed an operating system. And a simple way to understand an operating system for us as people is, what are the prevailing attitudes and behaviors and how I respond in any situation, right? Because that's what a software program does. And here's the situation, here's the stimulus, and how does it respond to solve that particular problem? Great. We've developed all that without knowing it. The problem is we don't always understand that some of the operating system that we've downloaded over those many years has been really helpful and serves us, and some of it does not. And so what we've done is develop a core set of visual tools that comprises this leadership operating system. And each of these tools represents an operating program that, as leaders download these tools and this new program, number one, it will affirm the areas of your programming that are already effective and helpful. Let's keep those. It will also reveal the areas of programming that are unhelpful, that are leading to toxic attitudes, behaviors, dysfunctional behaviors, bad defaults, all that stuff. And so what happens is, as somebody's downloading this leadership operating system, they get to keep all the best of whatever they've acquired over the years. And then they learn how to get rid of the stuff that's not working, how to develop the new attitudes and behaviors that they want to operate with, that is going to, what we say, put the best version of themselves back in the driver's seat more often. And so what happens is we read all these amazing books and listen to podcasts on leadership, and we get all these principles and ideas, but we're not quite sure how to put those together in our life. So what this leadership operating system does, it doesn't compete with any of those brilliant ideas. All it does is help us more effectively integrate all of the brilliant things we're learning in our life into the practical realities so that we can operate far more effectively than we currently are.
Genius. Absolute genius. Because the world today, if there was no operating system, we would be a completely different world.
Right.
And you've taken the leadership world and making it that way, that way. Here's the other thing that I'm hearing. I have my LOS, this content I've got coming in, I'm going, I'm not sure if I want to implement that in my life. This will help me disqualify content. Oh my God, that's a game changer.
Yep, it helps you qualify what content is actually going to be useful for you or not, right? Because we get a lot of competing ideas that are coming at us. But also it allows us to know, like, just like an operating system within a computing device is really the parental program, right? It's a program in and of itself that is basically just managing all of the different app software so that at any given moment, we know what apps to run. We know how long to run those. We know we can determine whether they're effective or not. And we need to trade them out for a new app, right? So an operating system is so incredibly important, because what most people are unaware of is that whether we like it or not, we have an operating system. What people are not paying attention to is whether it's serving us or not. So you can read all these great ideas and people go, I've tried to implement that in my life and it's not working. And I always tell people, it's probably not because those ideas are not helpful. It's probably because your operating system is not sufficient to run those applications. And so you're continually frustrated.
I've gone through probably spent hundreds of dollars on apps that I tried, and it's only $4.99. I'll try it for a couple. It doesn't fit. It didn't fit my operating system, my leadership operating system. Wow, this is so cool. Arnie, sometimes the podcast host, you get a guest on and they just blow you out of the water. I'm barely sitting in this chair right now. I'm so pumped because because it's really, we got to make life simple, and you've simplified the leadership life, business life a little bit. There's work to be done. Work can be easy, but it still needs to be done, which is the hard part, right?
That's right.
Client engagement is, because I call what everybody in the world does is people asset business.
That's right.
You need people no matter what you do. You need people. Maybe it's one, maybe it's a million. You talk about how to measure success in a client engagement. That's powerful to me. So you're taking the people asset to how do I measure that success when I engage with them? That's
right. It's a question that I think early on, when clients would ask us, I was not prepared for. They would say, well, okay, so we're going to commit to 3 months of coaching with you, and this is the process that it looks like. Great, these are the outcomes we want to see, but how do you actually measure transformation in people? How do you measure qualitative change in human beings? And so what we help them understand, and now I'm more equipped to explain this. It was under my nose the whole time. I just had to figure it out. But essentially what we're doing is we're training these leaders, teams, organizations in these simple tools that provide 3 different effects. Number one, each tool provides a clear vision or picture of the kind of person that we want to be. In other words, the way that we want to operate that is going to be most beneficial for myself and for the group of people around me. Right? So it gives us a picture of the kind of leader we want to be. It also gives us a picture of the kind of culture that we want to create within our team or organization. The second feature of these tools is they act like a mirror. In other words, they're diagnostic in nature. In other words, we can process areas of our life through the lens of these tools, and those tools begin to reveal to us how we're working that's helpful and how we're working that's unhelpful, right? And so then it gives us greater clarity about what might need to change in us. And yes, of course, that also helps us understand what might need to change in the environment around us if we want a different result. And then the third thing that these tools do is those tools actually become like, a pair of glasses that we wear, right? These glasses, don't change what I'm looking at in front of me, but it changes my perspective on whatever I'm looking at. It gives me greater clarity. It gives me greater perspective. And so in the same way, these tools do that. So I say, okay, what we're going to do is every few months, we're going to take time to go through and review are these tools helping provide a clear picture for you, your team? Are you more in alignment together with how you want to operate in any given situation that is going to be more helpful? Yes. Okay. Is it empowering you to self-diagnose your own attitudes and behaviors in a way that will allow you to determine what's working, what's not working? Yes. Is it transforming the way that you see and engage and perceive the people, the circumstances, the environment around you? Yes. Is it helping put a better version of you into the driver's seat more often in your decision making? Yes. And then what they do is they tell us all of the stories of how they've experienced personal transformation, of how they're seeing that personal transformation in the people around them. And now we can get really into the nitty-gritty of, do you understand the tools? Do you know how to use the tools? That's, basic 101. Yes, they have to learn that. But what we're most interested in is the anecdotal evidence. And anecdotal evidence is basically the feature of the stories that we share that give us some proof that something is changing. And so when they share these stories, this anecdotal evidence, everyone always says, oh my gosh, the needle is moving. We are growing. Like, qualitatively, we are having a very different experience in our workplace dynamics because we've been practicing these simple tools.
And practicing is the key. You don't give somebody a hammer. If they don't hammer the nail, the house won't get built. That's a step that people forget. It's like, hey, it doesn't work, Eric. Well, did you do 1, 2, 3? Oh no, I only did 1. Well, 2 and 3 have to be done. I'm being very simple, but I hear it all the time. It's like, hey, it's not working. Well, all I could do is lead a horse to water, and I'll stop right there.
Yeah.
Talk about your book. You got a book coming out. I may help with all this too. What was the mission for the book?
Yeah, so this is our second book called Transform Your Trajectory that dropped earlier this year, I think in February. And like all of our books, we're wanting to put the tools of this leadership operating system into the hands of as many people as humanly possible, right? Because they're not just for leaders, they're for people, because all people are leaders by virtue of that. We have influence and impact on the world around us. And so this last book is introducing a tool that we call the Kairos Circle. It's a very simple tool. And I'm not saying that practicing these tools is easy. I am saying they are very simple. And this tool gives us simple ways of identifying the experiences in our everyday life that are impacting us, and the ability to excavate the learning, the insights, the wisdom available in those experiences. Because more often than not, we're so busy, we're in a rush to get to the next thing, that I say we speed bump over our life experiences, right? We're just like speeding through, and man, we're being jarred and we're bottoming out the car, but we got to get on to the next thing. But I think as leaders, our ability to continually grow, to optimize our own development, and requires transformation. But if you ask people, do you know how to lead yourself through a personal transformation experience in any area of your life? And 99% of people will say, I don't know how to do that. That's why I hired a trainer at the gym. That's why I hired a leadership coach. That's great. But if you are always dependent on them to lead you through the transformation you need, then that significantly stunts your ability for growth. What if you knew how to seize every one of your life experiences as an opportunity for personal transformation growth? What kind of difference would that make? And I'd say, oh, that would make a big difference. And you can apply this tool in your marriage, in your partnerships, in your household, with your kids, and with your coworkers, your clients, your boss. It doesn't matter who you're engaging with. It doesn't matter if it's a feature of business, finances, personal health, your mindset. We as human beings, we need to be equipped with the ability to seize the opportunities and to make the most out of those opportunities for personal transformation. So when people talk about being a lifelong learner, or I want to operate with a growth mindset, you ask them, how do you do that? And they'll say, I don't know. I read more books. I listen to more podcasts. But the problem is this, and I think you might agree. If you don't agree, I want to hear it. Okay. Consuming content today is like putting food in your mouth and then chewing it up and then spitting it out. I don't know that people have functional ways of digesting what they're hearing and sucking all the nutrients out of what they're hearing so that it actually benefits them in practical ways. And so all this tool does in this book is teaches people how to do that.
That's powerful. And I totally agree with you, because I mean, a lot of people write books thinking they're going to make millions of dollars writing books. Nothing wrong with authors, but I seek, and I think you agree to it, this is just our brand. Here, you're going to read what we do here, and Eric does through the book. Here's our IP in a sense. And I want to go back to coaches. We're at the end here, and time flew by. This is so amazing. By the way, you gave me a book to read on the plane tomorrow. I'm traveling for business. So thank you. I'm going to read your book tomorrow on my Kindle. So I'm fired up.
And I would love to hear your thoughts.
Oh, yeah, and I will. I'll follow up with you. And the other thing, I have a note here about coaches. I'm a sports guy, family played and big time sports. There's a DB coach, there's a line coach, there's multiple coaches out there. So if you want to be a coach, I love how you said, I stay in my lane. I might have a offensive line coach I refer, or a quarterback's coach, but I'm a linebacker coach. And some of you football people don't understand that. Just think of sports. If you know sports, you look on the sidelines, they have multiple coaches. So Eric, thank you. That's such a great tip. Real quick, I always love to ask this. I want to get personal.
Please.
What does Eric do on a Friday night?
On a Friday night, my ideal Friday night is hanging out with my wife. Our kids are almost out of the house. We're almost empty nesters. And I think my wife and I are in a season of rediscovering each other, rediscovering what marriage is like without, having kids on the mind 24/7. So spending time with her, we're doing whatever, whether we go for a long walk on the beach, since we live in San Diego, going out to dinner, or just hanging out inside and watching reruns of The Office, which is a fun part for us.
Love it. And I asked that question, audience. You can see he, what's the word I want to use? Disassociates himself from his business and gets involved with family, life, business balance. I don't think there is, but just knowing that you need to work on it. I love that. So I really appreciate the answer. How can people reach out to your company?
Yeah, real simple. They can go to our website, which has links to everything else they might be interested in. It's MPWR coaching. So the word empower without the vowels, but mpwrcoaching.com. And I tell people all the time, they can sign up on our website for a free 1-hour coaching call, which is worth more money than I care to say on this podcast. And I'm shocked that more people don't take advantage of it, because we're not interested in pitching and selling our coaching services. We're interested in, like you've been saying, partnering with leaders who oftentimes feel isolated and alone, who just need a safe place to process whatever they're going through, so that we can help them connect to whatever resources, whether we can be helpful or whether we would refer them to somewhere else to get what they need so they can continue to grow and become a better version of themselves.
What he just said, audience, is what a servant's heart does. And here's the power of that. He's extremely successful. He's humble. I got to know him a little bit before. Now I know he's humble. He's extremely successful. So the people that go, I can't give this free stuff away. You can be successful and still serve people. You're not going to be broken homeless. Give it away. I love it. Thank you again, Eric, for an incredible show. Steve. Audience, there are so many tips. My pad here is full of notes. Use the forward and reverse buttons on the podcast. I do this uniquely because people tell me podcasts are too long. I don't have time and that. Well, don't miss out on an opportunity that something Eric said that could change your life or change somebody else's life as you share it. So use the forward and reverse buttons and take 5-8 minutes of the show and remember it. Go over it. Take that content. Use the LOS to take that content and get inside you with the nutrients. Love that. I'm going to use that myself. Please do that, because me and Eric would love for you to watch and listen to the whole show. But if 5 minutes change your life or make a difference, we're good to go. We're going to be super happy. So keep that in mind when you're listening. Don't forget my TV show, Together We Serve. It's Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. And my Doing Business with a Servant's Heart swag. Share that message to the world. Wear on your chest, your hats, hoodies, t-shirts, long sleeves, whatever you want. I want this message out to the world. I have a great guest, Eric, today that just showed you the power of it. Why not share it with the world? And as always, me and Eric, thank you so much for listening and watching this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode. Talk to you soon.